All right, and welcome back. And today's episode, we're going to go over the 4 stages of consciousness. This was originally produced or expounded upon in the Mandukya Upanishad. The Upanishads stem, the main ones, the major ones, stem from around 300 to 800 BC. So we're talking over 2,000 years ago. May have been around even before, but that's what we know as of now. Once you get around that time frame, or the further back in the past you go, the more murkier things get. So we're going to go over the 4 stages of consciousness. And the first stage is the waking stage. They call it the Jagrat or Yagrat. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, that Sanskrit term. But that's the waking stage of consciousness. That's the first stage. In this stage, our senses are focused outward. We're in the waking world. This is a predominantly beta and alpha brainwave state. This is also associated with the letter A in A-U-M, so this is the A part. And this waking stage of consciousness, the ego is centered in the face, in the forehead, and the eye area. And so the next stage of consciousness, stage 2, is the svapna, or the dreaming. The dreaming is when the senses are turned inward, and this is a predominantly theta brainwave state. When we're dreaming, we're in a predominantly theta brainwave state. And the ego is centered on the throat area here. And in this stage, it is characterized or associated with the letter U in so U. And as I said, inward focused of the senses. And the next stage of consciousness is the third stage, which is the sushupti, or the dream sleep. The deep, there's no deep, no dream, deep sleep. The deep sleep is associated with no senses outward, or no senses inward. The ego is merged with the self. This is when we are all self-realized, when we are all enlightened, in deep, dreamless sleep every night. And this stage is characterized by the letter M in M. And this is characterized by a predominantly delta brainwave state. It's important to, just interesting to put those together with that. And then the final stage would be the turiya stage, would be the 4th stage, and that is the witness, the pure consciousness. This is the silence after the So this is when you do the mantra it's the silence. It's the self, basically. It's the self not in dreamless sleep. It's the self in the, you call it waking world, but your mind's not present. It's basically like a deep, dreamless, conscious type of sleep with no mind, or with very little mind. I mean, the times when there's no mind would be considered turiya, and then the mind may come back every now and then, but that is the stage in which all the other states are on. This is the underlying foundational stage. As far as the mind, from what I read, it is a place of no mind. So enlightenment, true, deep, permanent enlightenment, is when there's no mind. We could get to places where the mind's still or silent or quiet, but not completely merged with the heart. That means the mind will come back. And that is a non-permanent state. It's not easy to do the permanent state. That one takes some time and effort, and probably being away from society as much as you can, because society tends to pull us back out with the noisiness and all the distractions and all that stuff. But Um, oh, there's one interesting stage that I talk about in the book called stage 2.5. So there's people out there that are doing brainwave neurofeedback training, and they're doing delta brainwave training to try to access these this turiya state, but with a mind. So they do delta with alpha, and this is like an abomination. This is not supposed to happen. The ego and no ego, the ego and the self do not go together. This is completely different, two different things they're trying to do. And it seems to have caused some negative consequences from what I've noticed. It actually strengthened the ego. It made the ego or their minds think that they actually have some superpowers and can manipulate space and time and reality, when ultimately all it's done is cause suffering and borderline psychosis and madness. And I characterize that as stage 2.5, because you're in between a delta, deep sleep, and you still have an ego mind present. And so stage 2 would be the mind turned inward, and then stage 3 would be delta with the deep dreamless sleep. So I put it in between there. I call it a stage 2.5. And in some traditions too, I can't recall off the top of my head the name of it, but they talk about stage 5 would be, I don't know, into the void where you completely dissolve into nothingness and actually lose your entire self-identity. But yeah, we don't, most of us aren't going to go that far. I mean, I think most of the yogis that do go that far, they come back. As well, the Sufi tradition talks about the void, which is really interesting. If you ever get on YouTube and watch some videos on it, there's a bunch on there. And that's it. That's the 4 stages of consciousness. And the main goal or the main stage that we're concerned with is turiya. So that's the final stage, the being in that witness, that pure consciousness. And you could be in that stage too and still observe, like you can abide in that stage and still observe the thoughts and the emotions and hold firm in that self. If you just walked around the entire day focused on that space, on the divine spark at our in the center of our cave, and just held your focus there, actually any space, if you focus on, will actually produce emptiness of the mind if you focus on it long enough. So there's a ton of different ways. Since everything originates from the self, all is the self, you could use all to actually go back to the self. So if all originates from the self, you could use anything to go back to the self. For example, let's say breath. So you could focus on the pause in between each breath. That's one way to focus on emptiness and to get to the emptiness state. You could focus on the space around your body. And actually, most things are empty space anyway. That's another hint at the simulation or the Maya dreamlike illusionary existence we're in. You can focus on the space in between 2 objects, the space in between each breath. You could close your eyes and imagine you have no head and then it's just pure space. You could focus on the space outside your body. You could focus on space in a cup. You could focus on anything with space. Emptiness, space. Only through an empty hand can you realize the self. Only through an empty hand can you realize the self. So you must empty everything, and in that emptiness is a vast fullness, which is the self, and you are that. Thank you for being here. We'll see you later.